What's up, everyone? Today is November 3rd of 2022. My name is Derek, and welcome back to this edition of the Super Stream here on Gematrinator 85. So you might notice that today's Super Stream is numbered. Today's number 39 on the list. If you actually look back on my channel and count the number of Super Streams I've done, beginning with the week of Super Bowl 54, right after the death of Kobe Bryant, you'll actually only count 36 streams before this. However, YouTube has deleted 2 of those live streams, hence why this one is numbered 39. Now, on this channel, we do deep dives into the language of Gematria and numerology. The language of Gematria, which is skillfully hidden from most people in the public, is very simple. We start with the alphabetic order, which numbers the alphabet 1 through 26, each letter relative to its position in the alphabet. And we will use the ordinal cipher primarily throughout this video, as we always do. The reduction or Pythagorean method reduces every double-digit number down to a single digit prior to adding it to the equation. These ciphers are also reversed to give us the rest of the base 4 methods. And you'll see the reverse ordinal ciphers, also very logical, very basic. We simply flip the alphabet backwards, so Z is 1, Y is 2, all the way through A is 26. The reduction method works similarly. Consider how A is 26 up here. Well, if you add 2 plus 6, you get 8, which is the reverse reduction value. So in this video, we will explore in depth how the mainstream media uses this language of Gematria and compares it with dates on the calendar, both the numbers in the dates themselves, as well as the numerology of the dates, which are listed right underneath down here below. Now, I thought it would be interesting to run my numbers today, given that I began numbering my live streams, and look what happened when I measured for my birthday. Today is 13,666 days after I was born, and given that the number 13 is the 6th prime number, this is like a quadruple 6. So what a crafty day for this to go down. So there's a lot I want to talk about in this video. We're going to cover some major news stories from this past week. A big one that many people have been talking about is this Hammer Attack that allegedly occurred in San Francisco, California, at the home of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who was allegedly the target of this attack. However, the man couldn't find her because she wasn't home and settled for attacking her husband, Paul Pelosi. Now, there's been a lot of back and forth in the media about what really happened on this night. And you may see that several mainstream outlets have attacked the conspiracy theories associated with this event. And just ask yourself, why is it that everything that happens in the news seems to have a conspiracy theory coming from the other side of it? The point of what's happening in the media is to divide the public. And yeah, of course there was a conspiracy or something staged behind this attack, but it's done so in a fashion that intentionally divides people. And Elon Musk was one of the men who tweeted out about this conspiracy theory this past week. And Elon has been at the center of the news in many ways recently. Just last week, Elon secured his purchase of Twitter, one of the largest social media platforms on the internet, and certainly the largest with its particular base. And we're going to talk about this purchase of Twitter as well, and how this all went down by the numbers. Because Elon is kind of cloaked in this cape as a superhero for truth and the First Amendment. But there's something more sinister going on behind the scenes. And again, this is all about division, giving people on one side strong reasons to believe and reaffirm their beliefs, while also giving people on the other side reaffirmation of their beliefs, furthering the divide, cementing their positions apart from one another. So in order to understand how simple this language can really work, let's take a look at something that NASA did this past week. For many, many decades, NASA has been guilty of practicing numerology in plain view of the public. Now, NASA is a very large company or government agency, and not everything they do is a hoax, but a lot of what they do is. And consider what they published out on Halloween this year. So here we have an image that was taken on October 26th. However, it wasn't until October 31st when Fox News, CNN, and other mainstream outlets picked up on this and published it. In fact, I'm just noticing the time that they published this article, 4:43 p.m. One other major cipher I teach that we will see throughout this video is called Latin Gematria, formerly known as Jewish on the old Gematrinator calculator. This cipher, which is based in the ancient Latin alphabetic order, is also called Agrippa's key. And you see how it's structured, 1 through 9, 10 through 90, 100 through 900, similar to ancient Hebrew and Greek Gematria and isopsephy charts. Well, this number 443 is significant to the sun in that method. Notice how the sun gives us a Latin Gematria value of 443. And no, this is not a coincidence. This is something we see in literally every major news article that's published. So why did they publish it on Halloween, October 31st? This image was taken during a series of coronal mass ejections. Notice how the phrase coronal mass ejection sums to 113 in reverse reduction. This is the same value as coronavirus pandemic. Now, the corona is also, of course, the name for the upper atmosphere of the sun, which is only visible during a total eclipse. And it just so happens that this photo from NASA was taken just one day after the second solar eclipse to occur here in the year 2022. Now think about the digits in the date Halloween, 1031. With the 0 dropped, as it is in numerology customarily, these same 3 digits, 131, are found in the gematria of coronal mass ejection. You may recall that the World Health Organization declared a coronavirus pandemic on the 11th of March, or 3/11, back in 2020. All of this connected. And it's no coincidence, obviously, that this was made to look like a smiling pumpkin, just like what many people have on their porch on Halloween. So let's take a look at the numerology for the date Halloween this year. Here we see what we call primary numerology of 83. This is achieved by adding all of the individual numbers as you say them out loud in the date. 10 plus 31 plus 20 plus 22. In the alphabetic order, the word smiling sums to 83. And this is why the article puts the word smiling in quotes. 83 is also the reduction value, with the S exception, of Society of Jesus, also known as the Jesuit Order, an arm of the Catholic Church which uses the sun as its emblem. Not only that, but the corona of the sun is visible as well, as I believe this is supposed to represent an eclipsed sun. In the ancient Hebrew language, the phrases for total eclipse and solar eclipse both have gematria of 83. This date also had numerology, or a life lesson number as we call it, of 47. Notice how smiling sun sums to 47 in reduction. The word smiling on its own with the S exception, also 47. But the number 47 is connected to this photograph in another way. This image of the sun was allegedly taken by NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory, which was launched back in 2010 on the date February 11th, or 211. Well, the number 211 is the 47th prime number. Each celestial body that's visible with the naked eye within our solar system has what's called a magic square. The sun's magic square is 6 by 6, meaning there are 36 total squares here. If you add up every number 1 through 36, you get a sum of 666. And when you write out the number 666, you get this value of 211 in the reverse order. Hence why this observatory was launched on 2/11. Also notice the reduction value of 666. This sums to 95. And on a calendar, 95 weeks is a span of 666 days. This image was posted on Halloween, which also sums to 95 in ordinal. Measuring from the date that NASA was established, July 29th, to the date of this photo, was even 95 days. But it's not just NASA's anniversary that this picture is connected to. The Solar Dynamics Observatory, which photographs the sun, was again launched on 2/11, and if you measure from that date to Halloween, you get 263 days. Well, why is the number 263 special? Notice how 263 is the 56th prime number. And in this story, we're told that the smiling sun is the result of coronal holes. Coronal holes sums to 56. So does Society of Jesus without the S exception. And the headline that they gave us, which is very frequently coded also, notice how this sums to 560 in the standard alphabetic order. By the way, that coronal holes also has matching gematria in multiple methods with smiling sun. Look at this. Both summing to 137 and 61. This 61 also stood out because this date, Halloween, leaves 61 days on the Gregorian calendar. And as far as this 137 goes, well, that's the 33rd prime number. Notice how in Latin gematria, the word sun equals 33. With the S exception, the sun, also 33. And in fact, this headline also gives us gematria of 3030 in the Fibonacci method. This Fibonacci method really climbing my ranks as most relevant ciphers. This uses the first 13 Fibonacci numbers and then backwards again for the second half of the alphabet. And I have no question that they are definitely observing this cipher with numerology. So hopefully this article gives you all the evidence you need that someone somewhere is using numerology to publish news stories. And it's not just numerology, but also synchronicity. There are themes or archetypes that transfer from one news story to another over the course of a short amount of time. So for this story here, which is talking about coronal holes, while I was doing this post, I realized we're going to see a story about cornhole or something come up. It's too close to cornhole. Well, what do you know? Today, I sign on to Fox News, one of the mainstream outlets I peruse for daily news. And look at this. We have a cheating scandal in the world of cornhole just 3 days later. And it was actually a couple days ago when I first heard of this story. So just as they're publishing this thing about coronal holes, we get this scandal in cornhole. And if you read the article, there's actually no scandal. It seems like, everyone might have cheated and they're going to implement checks later. No big deal. But this is what the news does. Publishes things in connection to each other day by day. So now I want to take a look at the numerology of one of the biggest purchases in recent business history. The last merger I remember being this large was Activision and Microsoft. Forgive me if there were more between, but here we have Elon Musk paying $44 million for Twitter. And the number 44 has been familiar to Musk for a long time. We begin with his last name, Musk, which has a value of 44. Also notice that 330, like sun, as we pointed out, as a nice little segue here. In reverse Sumerian gematria, this is a cipher which takes the reverse alphabetic order and multiplies it by 6, the most significant number of time. Twitter gives us a 444. And this number was heavily coded into Musk's original purchase. It was actually a different post where I laid this out, but it was 4 months, 4 weeks, and 4 days or something like that after Jack Dorsey stepped down when he stepped in to buy Twitter. Elon Musk first announced that he was a major investor on April 4th, the date written 4/4 on the calendar. And consider how the whole reason that he's buying Twitter is to protect the First Amendment, or so he claims. The First Amendment is officially called Amendment 1, marked as I, the Roman numeral. Notice how Amendment 1 has Gematria of 44 and 404 in standard Gematria. Then he announced that he was investing on 4/4, and he went on to buy the platform for $44 billion. Now, if you measure from the date 4/4 to the date October 27th, when Musk closed his Twitter purchase, notice how you get 206 days. 206 is literally the ordinal value of Twitter purchase. And in reduction, we get a 71. When he announced his Twitter purchase, it was on April 25th, which was a date with primary numerology of 71. Next, we're going to see how Elon Musk is connected to this code of the sun and the moon and eclipses. Now, a major number of eclipses is 666. This connects to the axial tilt of the Earth, 66.6 degrees from the plane of the sun. It's whipping around the sun at 66,600 miles per hour, but also notice the number 616. Now, 666 is typically recognized as the number of the beast, but many people actually believe it's 616. Both of these numbers coded into the speed of the Earth. And it just so happens that 666 sidereal months, or lunar orbits, which is a little over 27.3 days, equates almost exactly to 616 lunar phases, or synodic months, which measures from full moon to full moon. On the date that he secured his purchase of Twitter, Elon Musk was a span of exactly 616 months old. Meanwhile, Twitter, the company he purchased, turned 6,066 days old the very next day, when news of the purchase really circulated the headlines. Now, what's also interesting about 6,066 days, once again, the very day after Twitter turns 666, when you write out the number 616, you get a value of 222. Of course, we're in the year 2022, but 6,066 days is also 222 sidereal months. Again, this is a lunar orbit measured from the time that the moon passes the same star in the sky. This planetary calculator, for everyone wondering, this is available to enthusiast members and up on the website. Shout out to everybody who has sent their support since going live last month. It was October 3rd last month when we went live. And I think things are going pretty well. Ever since this year, last month officially, all these videos are now supported by the viewers. So, again, special shout out to everybody who has supported. But on with the numbers. Another significant number with Elon Musk is 445. This is the Latin value of Elon Musk. In the ancient Hebrew language, 445 is the value for full lunar eclipse, which is the phrase in that language that translates directly to total lunar eclipse. Pop open the Hebrew calculator, and there we go, 445 for full lunar eclipse. Well, we had a total lunar eclipse earlier this year. And this was on May 16th. And here's a quick look at this. And in the Western Hemisphere, this eclipse occurred and ended on the 16th. Now, think about this date, 16/5, as it's written internationally, like in Elon's home nation of South Africa. Well, 165 is the ordinal value of Elon Reeve Musk, his full name, 165. Measuring from the end of that eclipse on May 16th to the date of his purchase at Twitter was a span of 165 days. When Elon originally announced that he was going to buy into Twitter, he put out this strange tweet that just said, "Oh, hi, LOL," and there's another 165. We also get the 110, like Elon Reeve Musk. Or no, I'm sorry, Elon Musk is 110. But you'll also notice that the phrase social network equals 165, just like Elon Reeve Musk. Buying Twitter 165 days after the 16/5 lunar eclipse. Both social network and Elon Reeve Musk, however, also have this 186 value. And if you measure from the date he announced his purchase of Twitter, once again on April 25th, to the date he bought it, it was 186 days. His birthday also leaves 186 days on the calendar, June 28th. Now, there's also a very significant solar riddle with this purchase. Once again, 2 days before Elon purchased Twitter, we had the second eclipse of the year 2022. That's a lot of twos, right? 2 days before 2022 eclipse, it's the second eclipse. In English gematria, the word eclipse even equals 222. Every eclipse belongs to a particular Saros series. A Saros determines when the next solar or lunar eclipse will occur, and this is separated by 223 synodic months, or lunar phases. 223, a significant number to the moon in Hebrew, as this is the Hebrew value of the moon. So this eclipse from last week belonged to Saros cycle 124. Now that stands out also because the last total solar eclipse, which occurred last year in 2021, was on the date December 4th, or 12/4. And the number 124 is everything to Elon Musk. Check out how his full name sums to 1240 in Latin gematria. Elon Reeve Musk, 1240. His birth numerology, 6 plus 28 plus 19 plus 71, equates to 124. In English gematria, Twitter equals 1204. In reverse gematria, Twitter.com equals 124. Measuring from the last total solar eclipse on 12/4 to the date of his purchase was 10 months and 24 days. The number 124 also connects to 666 in gematria. So once again, another solar and lunar riddle played out through the media. And I often say to people who think that numerology is too complicated for them to understand, my videos do seem like a lot at first, but those who watch like several of my videos start to realize that this is the same thing over and over. So once again, one of the reasons Elon Musk was also in the news this past week is because he was posting baseless conspiracy theories. And I feel like the more the news uses this term, the less weight it holds. It really feels like people are getting tired of this fucking conspiracy theory garbage nonsense. It's so annoying. The fact that this phrase even exists is a conspiracy, but that's something I covered in a previous video. So I want to talk about this hammer attack that occurred at the home of Nancy Pelosi. And there's a lot of strange details about it. You know, it definitely looks like the glass was broken out at the house. Somehow police were already there by the time he was getting attacked. And this was in San Francisco, where the police don't respond to anything. So there's so many questions about this story, but that's not what this is about. This is about how this story was carefully constructed to have occurred on a particular date. And believe it or not, it's connected to MC Hammer. Now, MC Hammer is from Oakland, California, which sits right across the bay from San Francisco, where Paul Pelosi was born and still currently lives. Now, with less than 1 million people in San Francisco and about 500,000 in Oakland, there's like roughly less than 0.5% of a chance that the man named MC Hammer would live in the same area as the location of this Hammer attack. But this gets really weird when you check out the Gematria. In ordinal, Paul Francis Pelosi Sr. sums to 233. MC Hammer's full name, Stanley Kirk Burrow, also sums to 233. Notice they also share the 118. Well, there's a basketball team that plays in the San Francisco Bay and now Oakland area. Golden State, who used to play in San Francisco until the recent opening of the Oracle Arena in Oakland, played the very night that Paul Pelosi was attacked. And that game was hosted in Oakland. Notice how that game against the Heat, there was a total of 233 points scored in that game. The number that connects Paul Pelosi to MC Hammer. And check out the spokesperson for the Hamels. Or I'm sorry, for the Pelosi's. The spokesman is named Drew Hamill, which is ridiculously close to Hammer. But again, people aren't talking about this ridiculousness. You know, they're talking about the two mainstream narratives on either side. Notice how Golden State also won this game by 13 points. The number 233 is the 13th Fibonacci number. In reverse gematria, the phrase hammer attack has this value of 210. The man accused of the hammer attack is David DePape. I believe it's pronounced. This name sums to 210 in reverse gematria. I also appreciate the 51. Recall how we just looked at the number 233, which is also the 51st prime number, so no surprise to see that 51 in this attacker's name. But the 210 is what brings us to the location of the incident, San Francisco, California, sums to 210. And Paul Pelosi is the husband of Speaker of the House Nancy Patricia Pelosi, whose name also sums to 210. Furthermore, Paul Pelosi was born on April 15th of 1940. April 15th is the same date in history that San Francisco was officially incorporated. Let's take another look at MC Hammer's numerology. Stanley Kirk Burrell gives us this gematria of 80 in the standard reduction method. 80, just like the date of the hammer attack. 10 plus 28 plus 20 plus 22 sums to 80. 80 is also the value of Speaker of the House, which is where this occurred. Speaker of the House, at her house. Speaker of the House has an ordinal value of 197. Measuring from the birthday of Paul Pelosi and the anniversary of San Francisco to the date of this attack was a span of 197 days. Now, if you choose not to include the end date, you'll get 196 days. Well, 196 is the ordinal value of Paul Francis Pelosi, 196. MC Hammer was launched into superstardom with his song, You Can't Touch This, which equals 196. Are you kidding me? Also a 79 to go along with Paul Francis Pelosi. The night of the Warriors game and the Hammer Attack, the day before, was the 27th. And notice how that date had numerology of 79. The Warriors played the Miami Heat that night. Notice how Miami equals 79. So does Miami Heat. In fact, Heat Warriors also equals 79. And on that same night, there was also a Thursday night football game between the Ravens and Tampa Bay. Ravens is 79, so is Tampa Bay. The 79th prime number is 401. And if you measure from the launch of You Can't Touch This, or the release of MC Hammer's You Can't Touch This, to the date of the Hammer Attack, it was exactly 401 lunar phases. Again, the 79th prime number. And as far as why we're measuring with the moon, the name David DePape, the attacker, his name sums to 2, 10, 51, and 57, just like moon, 2, 10, 51, and 57. And if this isn't enough to show you that something really, really fucked up is going on with our mainstream media, what about the fact that Hammer's age matched the exact date that this occurred? So what I mean by that is if you measure from Hammer's birthday, March 30th of 62, to the date of this attack, you get a span of 22,128 days. Well, think about the date of the Hammer Attack. It was in the year 22, on the date October 28th, or 10/28, 128. It was also 212 days after his birthday. And 2/12 was the release of the album that You Can't Touch This was on, February 12th. This attack also occurred 212 days before the anniversary of You Can't Touch This. I mean, how many people actually realize just how crafted and carefully constructed our ridiculous news is? Think about how many millions and millions of people watch this idiot box and just believe everything they're fed. This is why I often call the matrix of lies our false reality, because so many things that people believe are based on complete fiction. That's what we're here to uncover. So the next thing I want to talk about is a couple of deaths that occurred this past week. One of which really rocked the hip-hop world when rapper Takeoff from the group Migos was shot and killed at the age of 28 in Houston, Texas. So there's some very interesting synchronicity that points to potentially something more going on with this. Takeoff, once again, part of the group Migos, with his uncle Quavo, whom he was with at the bowling alley the night he was killed, and also his cousin Offset. This group, Migos, hit the scene in the year 2013. They've been around, however, since the year 2008. And consider this in light of the fact that Takeoff was killed at the age of 28. 28 is the standard reduction value of Takeoff. Now, he died in Houston, and Houston is obviously very important to a lot of things going on right now, since the Houston Astros are currently playing in the World Series. But Houston is also home to the NBA's Rockets. And the Houston Rockets did play on the night he died, and we'll look at that score as well. Notice how the word Rockets also gives us this Gematria value of 28, just like Takeoff, the age he died at. When Migos first burst onto the scene, it was with their debut single, which was called Versace. And check out how Versace also sums to 28. Takeoff also had a solo career, and his only ever solo album was called The Last Rocket, and then he died in Houston. Well, if you measure from the date of this album release to the date he died, you even get 208 weeks. A big reason the number 28 is big in death is because the word kill has a gematria value of 28. But also notice the 17 in reduction. On the same night that Takeoff was murdered, the Houston Rockets fell to 1-7 with a loss to the Los Angeles Clippers. You'll notice that 188 points were scored in this game, and Migos is from the city of Lawrenceville, Georgia. And I thought it was interesting that Lawrenceville sums to 1808. Again, the number of points in this game. Measuring from Takeoff's only solo release to the date that he was killed gives us 1,460 days. And once again, that solo release was called The Last Rocket. And Last Rocket equals 146 in reverse. Well, you may be saying, well, you didn't copy the whole name of the album. Well, okay, so The Last Rocket. Notice how here we get this value of 77. Houston equals 77, the city where he was murdered. If the Astros win the World Series this year, it will be their 77th postseason victory in the franchise's history. But also notice how Houston equals 112, 112. The Last Rocket was released on November 2nd, the date written 11/2. And if you write out Takeoff, The Last Rocket, notice how we get values of 112 and 77. But what are the odds of this? Ask yourself that. On the exact same day that news of Takeoff's death broke, SpaceX, Elon Musk's other company, or one of his other companies, launched the world's heaviest rocket for the first time in 3 years. The Falcon Heavy rocket, the most powerful in the world, all connected to this rocket death with Takeoff. So it's pretty easy to see what's going on in the record industry when you really pay attention. Now, next we're going to look at how this connects to Gianni Versace, the fashion designer who Migos' first song was named after, who was murdered back in the year 1997. This album was this single was released on the album Young Rich Niggas. Am I allowed to say the name of the album because I'm white? Probably not. Censor me now, YouTube. But I mean, look at this. You know, this is their first album, and they're already dirt wealthy. You know, these record companies heap loads and loads of cash onto groups that they know are going to stay in this base consciousness. And, you know, I don't actually know too much about the guys in this group. By all accounts, Takeoff was a really good dude, but that's exactly the type of person that they would have murdered. Same thing with Young Dolph, who was, by all accounts, a highly upstanding guy in the community, did a lot for his old neighborhoods. But these record companies, you know, they give this image of wealth and materialism, and then they keep people in that base consciousness by offing the people they look up to. Before I get into the Versace riddle, I just want to point out how this happened at a bowling alley. The phrase bowling alley sums to 137 in ordinal. We talked about this number earlier a little bit because it's the 33rd prime number. And the number 33 is connected to ritual human sacrifice. They have the same gematria in Latin. Takeoff and the rest of his crew was from the ATL area. Atlanta sits on the 33rd parallel north, and in gematria, ATL equals 33. Takeoff was killed 30 weeks and 3 days after his uncle Quavo's birthday. Quavo, the man who was with him that night. His death also fell a span of 333 days after the last total eclipse. Eclipse summing to 33. And measuring from the death of Versace to the death of Takeoff was 303 months. And when Gianni Versace died, Takeoff was 3 years and 3 weeks old. So Gianni Versace, the man who Migos' first single was named after, was born on December 2nd of 1946, which means if you include the end date and measure to the date that Takeoff was killed, it was a span of exactly 911 months. And remember how we saw that ritual human sacrifice sums to 895 in Latin, just like 33? Well, in satanic gematria, ritual human sacrifice sums to 911. If you flip the number 911 upside down, you get a 116. The name Versace sums to 116 in the reverse order. And measuring from the release of Versace to the date of Takeoff's death, it was 9 years and 116 days. You get the 911 and the 116. Takeoff was also accused of sexual battery and other crimes, which, I forgot about this, makes my statement earlier about him being a good guy kind of silly, right? But who knows what happens between two people? I mean, there's a lot of false accusations as well, so, it's probably wrong to pass judgment on anybody. But if you measure from this date of these accusations to his death, you even get 116 weeks. And if you add his rapper name, Takeoff, to his common name, Kershnik Ball, you do get another 116. The fact that Takeoff named his only solo album The Last Rocket also stood out because of the 157 value in ordinal. Gianni Versace was killed on the 15th of July, or 15/7. So, another death this past week occurred in the state of Colorado. State Senate Minority Leader Hugh McKean joined a growing list of people who were in their middle age who didn't have a known health condition and suddenly died. At the age of 55 last week, Colorado GOP official Hugh McKean dropped dead at the age of 55. Notice how using the K exception in Gematria, where this master number 11 is not reduced, the name Hugh McKean sums to 55. So does the word sacrifice with the S exception. And it appears that there may be something more to this story than what either side is led to believe. Now, first, an important thing to understand here is that Hugh McKean represented Colorado. The state of Colorado was the 38th state admitted to the Union. In Gematria, Colorado sums to 38. Also 83. Also 308 in Standard. And this story is connected to the current governor of Colorado, whose name is Jared Polis, the first ever LGBTQ plus 2SIA governor in the history of the United States. And the name Jared also gives us a 38. Well, Hugh McKean belonged to the Colorado General Assembly. Colorado General Assembly also equals 380. The number 38 is highly significant to death. The words death, killing, murder, RIP, all summing to 38 in Gematria. This is even the number that was coded into the Murder by Numbers poster, a film from 2002. The E flips to a 3, an 8 instead of a B. The name Hugh McKean sums to 46, and this is the reduction value of sacrifice. In ancient Hebrew, the words for kill and murder both also sum to 46. You'll also notice that sacrifice sums to 62. And Hugh McKean died on October 30th, which had a life lesson number of 46 and also had standard numerology of 62. Furthermore, October 30th leaves 62 days in the year. So, no surprise for a sacrifice on a date with double 62 numerology. This date also had primary numerology of 82, and with the S exception, ritual sacrifice is 82. This brings us to the governor of Colorado, and just by his numbers alone, we should have always known and expected a sacrifice to occur in relation to this guy. Jared Polis's full name sums to 206 and 226. In our two primary large number ciphers, Latin and Standard, the word sacrifice sums to 206 and 226. Another significant number of sacrifice is 13. The phrase ritual human sacrifice sums to 103, and on its own, human sacrifice is 130. This connects us to the date of the death, October 30th, 1030. Notice how the name Hugh McKean, human sacrifice, doesn't seem like a stretch, does it? The name Hugh McKean sums to 91 in the alphabetic order. Well, 91 is the 13th triangular number. In fact, there's also 91 days in 13 weeks. And measuring from the date that Jared Polis took office to the date of this man's death was 1,391 days. There's a relatively significant cipher, one of the mathematical methods that I do touch on from time to time, called square numbers. This is the alphabetic order, but with every number multiplied by itself prior to adding to the equation. Notice how the word ritual sums to 1391 in both squares and reverse squares. Again, connecting to the date that Jared Polis took office. Once again, ritual human sacrifice has the same gematria as 33, and this man died on the 303rd date of the year, which also fell 330 days after the last total solar eclipse, and eclipsed that 33 in reduction. The name McKean has remarkable overlap with GOP, Colorado, Republican Party. And once again, this man was the minority leader of the GOP in the Colorado House. This minority leader was from Loveland, Colorado. Both of these phrases sum to 168. The GOP is the nickname for the Republican Party, and notice how the Republican Party is currently 168 years old. And on the date he died, it was also 224 days after its anniversary, just like Republican Party 224. More numbers of sacrifice found there as well. So, to me, this speaks more to the intentional division of people. I mean, think about how many people took to the internet and started shouting, "Well, looks like the jab got another one. He must have been double, triple vaxxed and boosted, blah, blah, blah." But I'm telling you guys, that's not what's happening with these people. There's something else. And I'm starting to wonder if they're using the jab as a way to kind of like cover stories like this. I don't know. It's weird, man. There's so many layers to truth with what's going on. So this brings us to my next post here on DH Peligro. The dumber. All right. I misspoke, so it's time to drink a little water and take a breath. All right, I just wanted to say I saw a few comments on my channel and on Discord asking what happened to all my videos. People have been telling me that all my videos have been deleted. And what I realized is that all that happened is that YouTube simply split up uploaded videos from live streams. So previously, when you clicked on videos, you would see all my videos and live streams together. However, they split this now, and I'm not sure I'm a big fan of this. I don't like this at all. I tried to change this back, but you don't have the option. So now you have to actually click live to see all my live streams, which, again, is stupid. But there you have it. So it's not that they're deleted, at least not yet, just that they're split up. Okay, so this past week, October 28th, we also learned about the death of D.H. Peligro, the former drummer for the Dead Kennedys, but also a frontman for his own group called Peligro, which released several albums between 20 and 30 years ago. Now, this story stood out to me immediately because on my blog, I've been covering the trial of Darrell Brooks, the man who was found guilty of murdering several people at the Waukesha Christmas parade attack in November of last year. And ever since the day of this attack, which occurred on the eve of the JFK assassination, I've been trying to explain to people how this story is completely connected to JFK. And for anyone who watched the trial play out on television, that trial was unlike anything I've ever seen before, and a part of me wants to say it's staged, top to bottom. And I believe it very well may be. Because there's so much bizarre numerology that I can't believe it wasn't something more to it. But who knows, you know? We all know the organic matrix is very strong. So I'm just here to feed you the numbers. You guys can come to your own conclusions. But we're going to talk about how this is connected as we go. So first, D.H. Peligro died at the age of 63. And that number stood out immediately because the JFK assassination was in the year 63. Measuring from D.H. Peligro's last birthday, which was July 9th, to the date of his death, is 111 days. In the alphabetic order, Dead Kennedys sums to 111. Kennedy even sums to 111 in reverse. And the drummer from the Dead Kennedys dead 111 days after his 63rd birthday. One thing that stuck out right away about D.H. Peligro is his birthday of July 9th, 1959. That's the exact same day that pro wrestler Kevin Nash was born. And in my last super stream on my channel, you would have actually seen Kevin Nash in the thumbnail. Right here. In the middle there, I put Kevin Nash. Well, that's because Kevin Nash's son, Tristan, suddenly died at the age of 26, unexpectedly, just about a week before D.H. Peligro. This birthday has a lot of kill numbers in it. Think about July 9th, written 7/9. The word murder is 79. And they were both born in the year 59, which is the Latin value of kill. But think a little bit more about this guy's career path. D.H. Peligro began as just the drummer for the Dead Kennedys. However, he would go on to step out from behind the drum kit and start his own band called Peligro, where he also sang. And this guy's last name is actually Henley. So when I saw this, I thought, wow, that's strange, because this reminded me of one of the best-selling drummers of all time, Don Henley, one of the founding members of the Eagles. And just like D.H. Peligro, Don Henley began as the drummer and then would go on to step out from behind the drum kit and be a singer for his own bands. And he's got the same last name as D.H. Peligro. So what are the odds of that? Pretty slim, I'd say. So we'll talk more about that connection in a second. But first, consider how D.H. Peligro Sorry, guys, I got to read my own post. Ah, here it is. So Don Henley was the founding member of the Eagles. And the NFL's Eagles played on the, was it the same day as his death? No, it was the same day we learned about his death, October 30th. So just as news broke about the death of D.H. Peligro, the Eagles defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Eagles got their 606th all-time franchise victory during the regular season. 606 is the Sumerian gematria of Philadelphia. Philadelphia equals 606. This drummer who died is named Darren Henley, whose name also equals 66. And once again, this guy was in a band called the Dead Kennedys. Well, one of the Dead Kennedys is Robert F. Kennedy. And notice how Robert Kennedy has gematria of 66. And he even died on 6/6, or June 6th. And he was shot by a man named Sirhan Sirhan, whose name also equals 66. And on the same day, the Eagles get their 606th win. Notice also how there were 48 total points scored in this game. Remember also the Philadelphia Phillies are currently in the World Series. So Philadelphia equals 223. Well, this is the 48th prime number. And Philadelphia scores, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh combined for 48 points. This is the Pennsylvania game. These teams only play once every 4 years. But check out the number 48 in gematria. Dead Kennedys sums to 48. So does Don Henley, the man who this is clearly connected to. And also D.L. Hughley, 48. Now, why do I bring up D.L. Hughley? Well, first off, Don Henley's middle name is Hugh. And that stands out because my last post before this was the death of Hugh McKean in a human sacrifice ritual. We just talked about Hugh McKean. And then my very next post, D.H. Peligro, connected to Donald Hugh Henley. And the fact that this guy uses two initials and then his name simply reminded me of D.L. Hughley, who also has Hugh in his name. And check out D.L. Hughley's birthday. The 6th of March, or 6/3/63. This guy dying at 63 years old. If you measure from his 6/3 birthday to the date of D.H. Peligro's death, you get 7 months and 22 days. 7/22 is the birthday of Don Henley. And if you measure from his birthday, you of course get 3 months and 6 days. Notice how the name Kennedy sums to 33 and 30 in gematria. D.H. Peligro was 3,303 weeks old when he died. And remember, the Kennedy family was from Massachusetts, which equals 33. The Kennedys are cursed. The word curse equals 33. Check out how both D.L. Hughley and Don Henley both equal 33. 33, this number constantly connected to ritual human sacrifice. I feel like I put this graphic in every single post I make about death. I also noticed that Don Henley and D.L. Hughley both had matching gematria with San Francisco, California. And that stood out because San Francisco, California is where we had this big hammer attack with Paul Pelosi. But San Francisco is also where the Dead Kennedys were formed. So once again, props to the scriptwriter, whoever's staging this stuff by the numbers. They're doing a bang-up job. So we're about an hour into this live stream, and I'm probably going to go ahead and wrap it up with this story. So again, we get the death of the drummer of the Dead Kennedys. And it just so happens that this trial connected to JFK is all wrapping up. So first, notice the man who was accused of this Christmas parade attack on the eve of the assassination. And who holds a Christmas parade before Thanksgiving anyway? I guess it's not that uncommon, especially up north where it gets super cold for Christmas, but nonetheless, notice how the name Darrell Edward Brooks Jr., this guy's full name, another junior. There's so many juniors in the media, it's just ridiculous. His name has full matching gematria. We call this a super match with John Fitzgerald Kennedy. 233, 334, and 107. On the date he was found guilty, JFK would have been 105 years and 150 days old. And in the alphabetic order, the name Darrell Brooks equals 150. In fact, he was found guilty on a date with numerology of 15. Notice more gematria overlap there. Last year I made this post, which pointed out how Darrell Brooks was born exactly 6,666 days after the JFK assassination. His rapper name was Mathboy Fly, which sums to 666, just like Kennedy in reverse Sumerian. Brooks was exactly 477 months old when he committed this atrocity. That's the prime number value of ritual sacrifice, 477. I urge you to check out my blog posts for more on this. But there was another sync that I missed, because there's actually a senator named John Kennedy right now. So this guy is currently in the United States Senate from Louisiana, and his name is John Kennedy, right? Sharing a name with the former president. So what I failed to mention last year is that the Waukesha Christmas Parade attack occurred on November 21st, which is the frickin' birthday of this John Kennedy. This John Kennedy turned 70 years old on the date of the attack that occurred in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And notice how Waukesha, Wisconsin sums to 70 in standard reduction. Last year's Waukesha Parade was the 58th year that it happened. And it was on the eve of the 58th anniversary of the JFK assassination. And this John Kennedy is known as John N. Kennedy, which sums to 58. If you measure from the birthday of this John Kennedy to the birthday of Darrell Brooks, you get exactly 11,050 days. The number 115, significant to rituals involving killing. 115 in both reverse and Latin. The word assassin equals 115, so does the word Waukesha with capital letters. JFK was assassinated on a date with 115 numerology by a man who was allegedly sitting in a warehouse, which equals 115. 115 also connects to the number 58. 115 ordinal, 115 extended, and again, it was the 58th parade, 58 years after the assassination when this occurred. Something else I found interesting is that not only was Darrell Brooks born 6,666 days after the assassination of JFK, here we see it right there, 6666, kind of connecting to my age today. Remember, I'm 13,666 days old. But what really blew my mind when I saw this is that 6,666 days is also 244 lunar orbits, or sidereal months. And this really stood out to me, because the number pi has this connection where the number 666 does not appear in pi until the 2,440th digit. That's the first time we see 666 at the 244 mark. And how wild is it that when the moon orbits the Earth 244 times, it's exactly 6,666 days. It's just too wild. This attack happened at the Waukesha Christmas Parade, which sums to 244. Darrell Edward Brooks was born in the year 82, which sums to 666. Forgot to mention that. But look at the phrase Waukesha, Wisconsin. Notice how we get 244 and a 6. So is this whole event kind of a ritual to the fact that the number 6 is so heavily connected to 244? Furthermore, Brooks was also 39 years and 9 months old exactly when this occurred. 399. 399 is the Latin value of murder. So, guys, is it possible that this guy is a military assassin who was instructed to drive his SUV through a parade as part of domestic terrorism to further the divide between white and black people? Because remember, this occurred just 3 days after Kyle Rittenhouse was found innocent in that trial where he was accused of killing people, just at will. And, that was served up by the media as a huge racial division tactic, even though anyone with a brain could watch the video and see that he was shooting people in self-defense. And then 2-3 days later, we get this guy attacking the parade in Waukesha. So, yes, my conspiracy theory is that this guy was instructed to drive through the parade at a certain point and probably even hit certain people. Because in my first post, I talked about how this guy killed members of the Catholic Church. I'm trying to remember where exactly I put this, but yeah, some of the people who died in this attack belonged to one of the local parishes. And I did a little decode on the Jesuit Archbishop of Milwaukee, who oversees the area for the Catholic Church and the Jesuit order. And his numerology was connected as well, because the attack was at 439, and it happened exactly 4,390 days after the Archbishop took over. And it just so happened that some of the people who died belonged to the Catholic Church. So there's definitely more than what meets the eye to this whole story. And the fact that this guy defended himself in court, and, he seems stupid, but also pretty smart. Like, to me, this is all an act. It's all a stage act. Very similar to what we saw in Austin and Connecticut involving Alex Jones, and also probably what we're seeing in Florida with the Parkland shooter. A whole bunch of bread and circus for the dopes in the public who don't have any idea what's going on. All right, everybody, that'll do it for this live stream. Thanks for the nice turnout. Once again, much love for all the support that people have shown in the last month since I went live on the website and launched the new site. Of course, there was some negative feedback too, which I believe we responded pretty well to. There still are improvements for the site coming up. On a live stream a week or two ago, I pointed out how I'd be making some more improvements. We talked a little bit about those. And yeah, starting in another week or two, I'm going to begin hammering down on programming again so that we have some cool new features on the website to encourage people to sign up. And not only that, but to learn more about Gematria and how it's being applied both by the mainstream media and this fascinating organic matrix that we also live in. All right, everyone, that'll do it. Peace, love, God bless. Check the description below for more links for the blog, for more about numerology, for support, things of the nature. We'll talk to you next time. See ya.